Hi guys, another day, another confidence video. We're here again with Mitch. He was here last time. We recorded a video together that I hope you guys also enjoyed. But we had a lot of unfinished conversations and things we wanted to share with you guys. So say hi to Mitch, everyone.
Hey guys, good to see you again. Good to see you, Steph. This is great. We'll definitely have a lot of fun today. I know we have a great topic to talk about. I think everyone's going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, so if you're new here, basically this channel is about reminding you and empowering you that you are so perfect and amazing in the present moment. And through that recognition of yourself, you get to experience the life of your dreams and actually enjoy it. So, today's topic is going to be a little bit around the the concept of peace and fulfillment and how that's your natural state, but why when you're first instilling those principles into your life, it can feel a little uncomfortable for your mind and your body to recognize it, right? Like you're like, I want to feel peaceful, I want to feel fulfillment, right? A lot of times if you're in the manifestation space, people are like, you have to believe it that it's now, right? Especially like Neville Goddard talks about that, like you already are now. And your mind fights it and your body fights it sometimes. So we want to delve into that topic as to why, what is happening? Why is your body rejecting this new version of you, which is not even really new. It's who you've always been. And yeah, Mitch has a really good point of view as to why that's happening. So
Yeah, let's kick it off. This is a great topic. Peace is your natural state. And the reason really is love. Love is your true identity. And understanding why it's your identity, we keep going back to this because it feels fulfilling. It feels good. And peace, relaxation, um, let's see, peacefulness, relaxation, fulfillment, they're all love connected to your identity. So that's why when we aren't at peace, it's not being ourselves, right? We always desire, like, where do I get this peace? Where do I get? It's not outside you. It's not in seeking anything outside you because inevitably you're going to look for it in yourself. So unless you feel for peacefulness within, then you'll always be seeking it and it's unsustainable. And inevitably, the only thing you're going to be looking for is yourself. So it's really how do we do that? And then the journey to get into fulfillment, how to get to the journey of, um, bliss inevitably, because that's our true state. And then really knowing that we can get there anytime. So that way there's no seeking, there's no waiting, relying and depending to be fulfilled. It's really just, get really evoking that within you and entertaining who you desire to be about yourself and the world. And then you start to purge all of the stress from your body. And you're not going to rely on, drugs and people take drugs today. Sometimes they take crazy drugs, to escape. But all of that is really an illusion because the more that you reinforce that learned behavior, the more that you believe it's the drug that's going to save you. And then it just
mhm.
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that's the, kind of the holy grail of your
Mhm.
fulfillment. And people go from drinking, drugs, all these compensation mechanisms to do that. And when you realize that all you're doing is seeking yourself, you're really on the journey to independency, um, and really empowerment. And realize that your free will power is sheer power. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I think one of the things that I want to convey is that peace is really, really attainable to you, whoever's watching, and to everybody around us. At some point, when I didn't have the evidence of it, I would look at the world around me and say, like peace is imaginary. Like who this doesn't exist. Like, oh, we have to find coping mechanisms, right? And there's so many, I say, distorted illusions in a way, out in the world, or their own psyche is reflecting out into the world that's telling you, you can only cope. You have to have this kind of schedule so you can manage your emotions and deal with what's going on. You're never really going to have true freedom, right? That's part of the illusion. And I remember when I was coming onto this journey, like I was so desperate for peace, which is funny because you can't be really desperate for anything. And that's when it shows up organically, right? But I knew in my heart that if I wanted something, I could have it. I said, there is no way I can have a desire without knowing it is possible for me. But the reflection, the way it was showing up, right? Guys, the reflection talk about it is the way that your physical world is showing up. It shows you the negativity first, the contrast,
Mm,
right? So then you're going to have people showing you, telling you that this is impossible. And for me at that time, it was peace was impossible. So even when I was going through a therapist, it was like, no, you just have to cope with it. This is nobody has peace in the world that we live in. And I want to convey to you guys that it is very much possible. And it's not so much about doing more, it's here in the present moment. And it is, and once you start reconnecting to the peace, fulfillment, and bliss that you already are, there's not seeking, nothing can actually provide that for you. All those layers start falling off and you get to really experience a beautiful life and your whole life gets elevated. It gets enhanced organically. You don't even have to do anything or look for anything. The pieces come together for you without that that tethering that the anxious mind plays on the illusion that it needs.
exactly. I think that, we're talking to ourselves all day long, right? So we are entertaining things about ourselves, what we prefer. There's two things, whether what you're entertaining all day long is something that you prefer, or you're deliberately giving meaning to something about yourself or your world that you don't prefer. And that's the sabotage. And then you think like you have to give meaning to what you don't prefer. This elicits, cortisol, stress hormones. And then you think like you can't get rid of it. You think, I got to get rid of this because it's not me. And then you really like, how can I get the peace? But you're the cause. You're the one that's entertaining these thoughts. And all you have to do is give the meaning you prefer about yourself and any experience. And it's so empowering. And it really is liberating. Again, that free will liberation. And you get to choose, what you assume is going to happen, what you perceive is going to happen, what meaning is going to happen, and it's always in love. When you know that your true identity is love,
Yeah.
there really is no stress. There's very little stress, and any stress you have is an opportunity to purify, because then you realize it's something about yourself that's an illusion. It's not what it seems. It's something, a meaning about yourself is not what it seems. And this is really a playful journey. It's like a playground. When you really realize it, it's like a playground. You don't have to take it seriously, which I know, Steph, you're totally
Mhm.
your philosophy as well. You don't have to take it seriously. It's playful, it's fun. You can see people the way you want them to be seen. Somebody's sick, you see them healthy. You don't keep dwelling like when they're going to stop being sick, or even when you're going to stop being sick. The whole thing is an illusion. It doesn't serve you. It's deliberately giving that perception you don't prefer, which instantaneously makes you feel unfulfilled, and then you're suffering. For what reason, you really don't know until you become consciously aware of it. And once you become consciously aware of that free will ability to entertain the way you desire to feel about yourself, instead of being addicted to what you don't prefer about yourself, which is really, when you really realize what you're doing, it's ridiculous to put yourself down, to complain about anybody on a regular basis over and over and over. It's not serving anyone. And all it does is make you feel miserable. And all it does is create an addiction, because then what happens is, and I think this is to your point, Steph, is that
Mhm.
it makes you familiar and known that this is who you are, but it's not. It's not who you want to be. It's somebody you identify with. You recognize it because that's the way you're talking to yourself, but it's not who you desire to be. It's this version of yourself that is an illusion of who you want to be. But desperately want to change it because love is your identity. And I think that's really the confliction, that people go through when they don't realize they have the free will to entertain love and what they prefer. I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's so many ways, eventually what I've developed is understanding if I feel contraction in my body, it's telling me that's not true because I am the truth, right? Love, serenity, peace, love, joy. That is the truth. And I've developed that understanding. Meditation helped me a lot with calming down the mind and, again, untethering from the illusion of the physical circumstances of your past. You're not defined by any of that. You're not even defined by what's showing up in your life right now. Right? So then when you realize that you have the power to not be defined by anything external or your past or your thoughts, right? Now you become the creator. Now you can decide where you're going. Whereas before you were feeling under all these things, feeling powerless, right? Like, oh, I'm this way because of this. And now you're giving an external cause power to define you. And when you learn to take the wheel, that's all we're doing, guys. We're learning to drive our attention, right? Um, we're driving it back to what we prefer. And, like a lot of times we learn this through, unfortunately, through like extreme pain, right? You're just like, oh my God, I don't, something has to change. You hit a rock bottom and something shakes you, and you're like, that's when the catalyst of the transformation, which is silly because it's not really a transformation because there's only the present moment, but it's like the catalyst of the awareness that can start purifying you. And then other times it's curiosity, you're like, oh, I want something else for my life. I'm driven. I see a vision, right? If you have a vision, that's also a very good way to keep purifying the illusion away. But I find that at first it feels uncomfortable, especially if you come from a life, which is also part of your imagination, right? It's the reflection. The physical world has reflected a lot of crazy, chaotic things. You become one with it because you're like, oh, like I've always had bumper cars in my reality, right? Like this is all I know. It's the shakeup. I've always had extreme cortisol release. Like, you explain it, Mitch, where if you become addicted to anything, and that could be cortisol, right? Like you need the highs and the lows of the day to keep you going and have that momentum of action and reaction. And so you think that's normal. You think, oh, the I need this intense approval from the physical world. And that can show up as your business or your job, right? Or how
Mm.
much money you're making, or like these material things, which are very fun to experience once you understand you're the one in control of them. But it you lose all your power if you're always chasing an illusion. And
Yeah.
that's where I want to remind people, like, guys, it's earth, it's fun. Have fun with your life. But keep remembering that you're the one in the wheel, not like the fancy cars, the mansions, and the relationships that you seek, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree totally. I think what a lot of what you're saying is that approval from the outside. What does that actually mean? You're the authority. You're the source of all meaning. So when you seek the outside, you're looking for validation as the authority. So a great example is working for a company, right? When you work for a company, almost all the time, the only way you're going to move up in it is by getting some sort of validation from an authority figure to validate who you are. And it's not really true. You're not judged by anybody. Nobody defines you. Maybe the contributions you're making to your work, but you feel from the base depending upon how you're working for the company, the perception could be that they're the authority of who you are. And that's not really true. And we get to this point where if there's any type of criticism or constructive criticism, we take it personally because we're giving up our free will. It's not really true. If somebody says, "Well, I don't like the way you did this," a lot of times they're reflecting the way you believe about yourself. So once you change your perception of yourself, they're going to change because you're going to talk differently. You're going to react differently. You're going to be in the right place at the right time for them to recognize who you truly are. So it's almost like a training ground, working for someone. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they typically, as we know, a lot of them, they're working for someone else, then they become an entrepreneur because they realize their self-worth. They realize that, hey, I'm valuable. And they realize that from the illusion of giving that power away to an authority. And that authority really has a lot of different ways of manifesting itself. It could be through a job, it could be through family, what the authority is, friends, what the authority is. You feel like you have to
Money,
appease them.
money being one of them.
Money, exactly, yep, holding that power, that it's, identification with money, that it represents, something bigger than you, and that
Mhm.
and that power is outside you, that depending on it to define you. That's a really good point, Steph. It defining you. So, essentially, authority is all defining you, which again
Mhm.
is an illusion. It doesn't define you. So when you realize that, giving the meaning you prefer about yourself and your world, you give up anything outside you defining you. It's not really true. No one defines you. No one at all. And I think that a lot of times the more we give that power away, the more depressed we get because love, that's not what love does. Love thrives on love. And what love does, it defines itself. So the more that you don't define yourself, it's not really being yourself. And then you start to seek the compensation mechanisms of drugs, alcohol, medication, whatever the case may be, because we're desperately desiring to feel good. But all we're
Right.
seeking is ourselves. So all we have to do is go to the source and give the meaning we prefer about ourselves, talk to ourselves differently, which we're doing all day, realize that we can talk to ourselves like we're the best. We are the best. We're all the meaning there is. So we're perfect. But it's being familiar with that. Most people are not familiar to talking to themselves that way. But the thing is that it's so fulfilling to talk to yourself that way. But we're so comfortable being uncomfortable by getting that validation, like you said, on the outside, the authority, that we don't know who we are. It's mistaken identity. And I think that once we get that back, we're very empowered. Our whole life turns around. I think you'd agree.
I I know that to be true. And guys, like we're speaking from experience. No matter where you came from, no matter what kind of past you experience the reflection of, it's a distorted illusion because you're perfect now. And when you receive that understanding to yourself, you can start creating. Like the present moment is your only stability, right? And you and your decision from within gets to give your life direction. And at first, what I wanted to say was that peace feels uncomfortable. And because you're so used to being in that merry-go-round of like ups and lows of the cortisol release, I need to prove to people how can I be motivated if I'm not chasing something, right? That's the biggest illusion that I too had to overcome. And once you start meditating and accepting that it's okay to be still, like stillness is okay. It doesn't mean you're not going to amount to anything. It doesn't mean you're losing, you're wasting time. Time is also an illusion, but that's a topic for another movie, for another video. And like accepting that you can be still and accept yourself doing nothing is going to be one of the most empowering things in your life because now you stop seeking. How many of us were stuck in the mindset of, oh my God, I'm only worthy if I'm working 12 hours a day, or if I'm setting these insane goals and I wake up at a certain time and force my body to do these things, and I have to eat in this new trending diet, and I have to post on social media. And it consumes your freedom because now you are a slave to the conditions, to what you think the world wants of you. So of course you feel uncomfortable because you're like a robot. You're like running around. You have no free will to say what you want your life to be. And the beautiful thing about sitting still with a meditation practice, whichever case that may be for you, like I said, guys, did not think meditation was gonna be for me. That was the last thing in my checklist. I tried everything before that, before I would even, accept that into my life. And then when you actually are able to sit still, you're like, oh, and it feels like a faucet of love, right? So let's say you grew up in a difficult family, the reflection of one, right? Um, you're like, what does love feel like? You can go into your meditation practice and you're going to start feeling what safety feels like from within. Like, what does it feel like to feel safe, loved, and supported? And you decondition it from the reflections. You don't you detach from the story. Oh, I didn't get love and fulfillment from my family. That's the why I am the way I am. Oh, my job, my boss is mean to me. Oh, the school system, the government, all these things, right? Now you don't rely on any of these things of the world, the illusion of form and space, right? You're not relying on them to give you stability, because now if you close your eyes, and this is going to happen for everybody, you can just close your eyes and sit still. You can receive the love and stability and peacefulness that you already are. And the cool thing, guys, is that once you understand that, you harness your capacity to be in your physical being, right? Because your body is going to be like, this is impossible. It's going to fight you. It doesn't know what it feels like to feel safe. Or that was the illusion, right? Because you were always safe, loved, and supported. You were always. It's just you were carrying, like, what I say, like layers. You're carrying overlays of distorted illusions. So then you tell your body to calm down. And then the cool thing is that if you start experiencing life like that, little by little, you are going to be the carrier of said energy into the world. So now you're not reacting to the world's reacting to you.
Mm.
And you're so peaceful and happy that everything gets transformed, alchemized to you, because you're the most potent energy of your life, because you have harnessed this peace, this love, and you're sharing it with others, not because they loved you or they were nice to you or because they were sweet to you. No, you love them first because you love you first. And when you
Mm.
understand that as you love yourself first, right? First, your physical being, understanding that you're perfect as you are, you can start loving people. And this is when the miracles happen, because they will transform in front of your eyes, no matter who it is. It can be the most, you might have the most despised memory of a person, but as you allow that love to seep into yourself and be reflected in another, they will become your best friend, or I don't know, give you $1,000 maybe.
Yeah, you've touched on so many different topics, Steph. The fact of meditation is certainly something to talk about, what you did. um, you know, when we go from this like the whole theme of this talk today is going from peace to fulfilling way state of being, right? And one of those practices is meditation. And what meditation really means, and Dr. Joe Dispenza defines this, is to become familiar with. That's the definition of meditation. To become familiar with. What are we becoming familiar with? Right? We're becoming familiar with fulfillment. We're going from a state of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, to being comfortable, being comfortable. What is becoming familiar with in that, right? So when we go through meditation, typically most meditations are um, to connect with no thoughts. That's what it is to become familiar with no thoughts. So when you become familiar with no thoughts, you are following some sort of steadiness, right? So steadiness could be meditative music, it could be fan noise, it could be breathing, it could be a candle. So the steadiness of something that you're familiar with, some steadiness of what peace, fulfillment, and relaxation is. Because when you go from something that's not something that's familiar, which is this mind chatter, overthinking, that's not really any steadiness. That's complexity. That's convolution. It's not any control. It's not any free will. It's very reactive. But when you go through meditation, you are surrendering. The ultimate control is giving up control. And that's what free will does. You're choosing that. You're choosing fulfillment. You're choosing relaxation. You're choosing calmness. You're choosing peacefulness as free will. Where before, you're not. You're giving it away. You're overthinking, mind chatter, reacting. That's not any sort of familiarity with what peace is. That's the whole goal of what today's conversation is.
Right.
So becoming familiar with that, when you go so long doing this over and over and over, thousands of times, you believe that's you. You believe this is what life is. But because you're love, because your true identity is love, you realize that you start to it teaches your mind and body who you really are. It's like, wow, this really exists. I can really learn what peacefulness, relaxation, fulfillment, and calmness is. You're teaching yourself. It's a brainwave pattern. You're teaching yourself, hey, this is really you. You feel good. You feel fulfilled. Is you feel love, right? That's what you were alluding to. And you have a wisdom. You have an awakening. Knowledge plus experience is wisdom. As you go through meditation, you realize that, wow, I have the knowledge, I understand the concept, I'm having the experience because only you can experience and define yourself, and realize what you're experiencing is only you. You're entirely self-defined, and you always believe how you feel. That's the big thing. Always believe how you feel. So as you're gaining this relaxation, fulfillment, calmness, peacefulness, you're gaining that wisdom. You're gaining that experience, and you're gaining reference experience because you always believe how you feel. You remembered how you felt, you did have the experience, and now you're on the path to fulfillment because you realize you have the steps it takes to get there. And I always like this expression where I can't teach people chocolate. This is with chocolate. This is you experiencing something is like the way you would experience anything that's blissful. And the reason why it's blissful is because you're going from a state of being uncomfortable to teaching your mind and body that you're comfortable, which is really sheer power when you think about it, sheer power, because now you've completely overcome so much, um, so much non-fulfillment, so much stress, so much cortisol raging through your blood, and you realize that you're the source of your life. And now you've taken control of it and you have the reference experience that you experienced it. You cannot never refute it. No one could take that memory away from you. And you've proven yourself. You become your own best friend. You've championed yourself every minute you do. It's a steadiness, steady calmness, that you're doing for 15 to 30 minutes. And it's continuous. So it's not like, you're taking a break for a commercial. You're enjoying it. You're teaching your body and mind it. And it's truly life
Yeah.
changing. Just by one session can do that.
Yeah. It's it's really very beautiful once you're able to accept it. I my human conditioning fought it a lot. I thought it was lame. I'm sharing this only so if you guys are in that place, know that, it's normal to fight new things, right? So I used to think it was lame. I didn't want to become one of those people. I didn't want to be, I thought it was going to ostracize me from society, make me be a weirdo. I was going to, there was like, I don't want to dress like those people. And it's all that judgment. What it's doing is separating you from something that could be beneficial to you. And essentially, that's also the practice when you can go into silence and observe your thoughts without the noise of the world, right? Because you're separating yourself to dissect yourself. You're looking at the hardware, basically. You're opening the computer and looking inside and being like, how can I make it faster, better, and smoother so that it could run more efficiently? And and a lot of it is also looking at your thoughts without letting them have that visceral reaction, and even if you do, it's okay. But then the more you do it, the more you can see the thoughts. And little by little, you're going to remove the reactiveness from your primitive body, right? That it's been conditioned to fight or flight or the world against me. But once you can monitor, change the way that you react to yourself and your own thoughts, you're changing the way you're reacting to the world. And has that is where your power comes from, because now you're like, "Oh, well, my thoughts said this. They don't mean anything." You're going out into the world and people are saying things to you, or the
Mm,
reflection is showing something else. You're like, "I already confronted this within myself. I already know that I'm loved, I'm safe, I'm stable." So everything starts having less power over you.
yeah.
And something else I want to add is that I know that in my own experience, when I had the illusion of a rock bottom, it was really hard for me to like understand what self-love or that feeling of love was. I was like, "Oh my God, like they're telling me to close my eyes and feel love." And some meditations say, "Feel the love you did as a child." And guys, not everybody had like a happy childhood reflection, right? So what I did, and I have that in my channel now, I have meditations of what brings you joy. Like think of something that you feel, think of something or someone you feel like immense amounts of love towards, and play with that emotion, like whether it's your children, it's your pets, it's the memory of your grandma, or what feels the most peaceful and elevated, and you bring it into your mind, and then you realize that you can grow that emotion within your body yourself just by imagining this person or thinking of this person or event that you love so much. So then now you're getting familiar with the feeling. And then you realize that it always existed within yourself. So I think that's a really helpful step for some people that, might not really understand, how do I even feel this love if I've never experienced it?
Yeah, really good points. I think one of the great takeaways of what you said, Steph, is that you go out in the world and your life evolves and changes from the meditation. But let's think about why it changes. What's the this way we can correlate the reference experience and tie it into the state of being, going from, you know, uh, on the journey from, to fulfillment, from gaining peace. So when we go through meditation, we now are experiencing something that we really, many people haven't experienced before. They're going from years and years of 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 stress, not peacefulness, not fulfillment, not relaxed, not calmness, um, not really knowing they always seeking fulfillment, waiting for this fulfillment, this learned behavior of waiting. Now they're empowered. Laying down and they're essentially surrendering to fulfillment instantly. And the reason why their life changes in many ways is because the meaning now changes. What they used to think about themselves has changed. Their self-concept has changed. They realize, like, I can release my thoughts. I can gain fulfillment. Um, I'm in control. I'm empowered. And when I go out in the world, I'm looking at myself differently because now I'm familiar with peacefulness. Before I wasn't, right? I had to
Mhm.
assume that peacefulness was something outside me. I had to
Yeah.
wait for it. So now I know that I feel loved. I'm more of myself, more and more so each day. The more that we get into being comfortable instead of uncomfortable. And the more that we're comfortable going out in our everyday, it's almost like a walking meditation now. We get out of our meditation, now we got to live the meditation.
Yeah.
And now we look at the world differently because now we're realizing that we can believe different things about ourselves, and we don't have to wait to feel those things about ourselves. We don't have to wait until somebody validates us, our employer, our family, our friends. We're empowering ourselves in that meditation. We feel fulfillment. We recognize that it's not outside us, it was always within us. And every time, this is a big takeaway, every time you're waiting or relying and depending on any authority to make you feel fulfilled, you're essentially involuntarily affirming, I'm not loved yet. You're as the moment that you're with somebody, and then what happens is a lot of times it gets to the point where because of you, I feel this way. Because of you, I'm this way. That's a
Mhm.
complete illusion.
Yeah.
And that's where that stems from, where that tends to get that illusory philosophy.
Mhm.
But it's always within you to feel that way. It's not outside you. But that's really the empowerment, and then realizing that you're the fulfillment, And then now you're familiar with what fulfillment is. So getting back to meditation to become familiar with, you're becoming familiar with what love is, what true love is. That's what you're becoming familiar with. And that's the whole purpose of meditation. So now you're going out in the world knowing that you're not seeking love, you are love, and you're embodying the best for people because you are love. That's what love does. And you're the same thing for yourself. And that's what it's a teaching. It's like a self-inquiry to help you teach your mind and body who you are. And the fact that you could learn that and realize that, and that continuousness of peace, that continuousness in a meditation of fulfillment or relaxation, it has to teach you. It's continuous. It's not like waiting, okay, I'm going to a teacher and getting a lesson. You're getting an instantaneous lesson,
Yeah.
even in 3 minutes. It's continuous. It's 180 seconds of lesson in 3 minutes, and champion every minute. Your own best friend. Yeah, you're gonna want to get up. You're gonna want to walk because you're used to the mind chatter. You're not. You're used to, I want to overthink. I want stimulus of mind chatter. You're used to that. It's a pattern. It's an addiction. And
And it's
then
also like,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Yeah, no, go. You go.
When you're talking about the contrast, right? I don't know if you use the word contrast now, but the contrast is the lack of peace, the lack of love, the lack of everything working out for you. That's just bringing you back to yourself, right? Like the contrast is the illusion because it's showing you whatever you feel uncomfortable with. It's just showing you exactly where the opposite, like where you don't want to be. So if you feel uncomfortable in something, that means that there's another side to it, the duality of the world, right? It's always going to be available to you. So now you start getting excited because you associate this discomfort, this anxiety, this problem with, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good to me. That means this is my signal to transmute it and understand that there is a solution to this. And what would the solution be and what would it feel like, right? So you start using your senses instead of feeling so fearful and feeling stuck in the circumstances. You're like, well, if I don't like this is my signal that I get to create. Let me self inquiry. I don't know if that's the word to use, but let me self reflect. Let me self question and journal. You can journal, you can, do it internally and via conversation. You can be like, what would it feel like to have this solved? What do I prefer? And that's really when you become the leader of your life, right? As opposed to feeling victimized by this is what my boss says I need to do, this is what the world says I need to do, my mom, my parents, my sister, my brother, whoever, my relationship. They tell you something has to be done a certain way, you cringe or you become small. And you don't have to fight the reflection, you guys. Like the physical world is the aftermath of what you feel within, what you believe within. So you get news of something you don't like. You're like, okay, I feel uncomfortable with this news. What can I change about this? Not through doing, because that can also get a little addicting, right? Like trying to have control of like, what do I need to do to be the problem solver? No, just be like, okay, what solution do I prefer? That stems from love and fulfillment for myself and everybody involved. And that's when you're going to see everything elevate because you're deciding, you're like, this doesn't come from love. I feel uncomfortable, right? And I think sometimes people subject themselves to this uncomfortable circumstances because they're like, oh, well, if this is making everybody else happy and like I'm going to feel uncomfortable, but it's okay. Well, that's not coming from love, guys, because you're neglecting yourself. You're neglecting you're saying in order to make other people comfortable, I have to do something that doesn't feel so good to me, which ends up in resentment. What you're really creating is a wheel of resentment to then project it like I feel un what is the word that I'm looking for? Like you just start feeling like I'm such a giver, nobody gives back to me. I feel like I'm always the one putting myself out there and resentment is also another distorted illusion. So if you really see something in your life that could be different for yourself, go into your mind, into your peace bubble and be like, what could be better? How can this benefit everybody involved, And that's really important because I lacked that freedom at some point. Like I felt like, oh yeah, peace and love, but how can it benefit everybody, not just, going with the flow.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think what happens is the when you a lot of this teaching, you're teaching your mind and body through meditation. You're learning that you're love, and I think that what you expressed, once you learn that your true identity is love, everything opens up for you. You're not appeasing people like you were saying. You're not looking to ensure that you're making them happy because you're happy that they're happy. You're happy that you're happy. You feel happy yourself for them. You're not doing it to get their validation. You're not doing
Exactly.
it to get their approval. That they're the authority. That's when you realize what your true identity is. Love is. Love is not, there's no authority of love except you. So you're giving because you enjoy it. You're not doing it to get something to get their authority.
Mhm.
So that's why teaching your mind and body, especially at least to give yourself to entertain this meditation to help you learn. The only way you can learn about yourself is through experience. You can't really be taught that you're love until you experience love. Just like I can't teach you chocolate. It's the same thing. Cannot be taught, it has to be experienced, especially to really learn what peace, relaxation, fulfillment is. Anybody that's experienced meditation really awakens from it because they realize that they are the source of all of their empowerment, and that's what love is. It essentially getting down to the foundation of that your identity is love really is a guiding light of everything that you do and everywhere you go and all the relationships that you make. It really is huge, and I think that really helps tremendously in all things of your life.
Yeah, everything else that wasn't love was just an overlay, is what I'm looking at it now. And it's funny because I see it kind of like a Photoshop window where the foundation, the background is love and everything else is an overlay, right? And then there's layers over it. And then once you delete that layer, the beauty in it is that it gets deleted forever, guys. So you don't necessarily have to consistently be reinforcing, that I am peace and I am love in a world that's showing you otherwise. And it's not like that. It's once you're able to really integrate it and purify certain beliefs, the reflection, which I share is the physical world, will stop showing that to you because you conquered it. Now you realize that it has no power over you. And we can talk a lot more about this. I know that we have to go in a little bit, but we can finish this conversation next time, guys, because I want to talk more about contrast
Mm,
and how, there's a certain way the reflection will show you things you don't prefer
mm.
while getting you to your preferred outcome?
Perfect.
And
Yeah, the contrast, part 2 will be awesome. I'm
yeah.
looking so forward to that. That's actually the next step in this, so it's a perfect segue.
Awesome. So thank you guys for listening. We're so happy you're here. And if you have any questions or want to, give us any topics that you're more interested to hear our opinions on, just write them out in the comments and I'll leave Mitch's information too so you can contact him with, any inquiries you might have. Love you guys so much. Have an amazing day, life, whatever. See you soon.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.